We started off, as you know, with the work that the central bank had done with its announcement on the results of its audit last year. The SEC then started to focus on the capital market side, since in some of the cases, the capital markets was a vehicle that was used by some banks, some operators, to try and support things that were inappropriate. We went through a very rigorous investigation, and that led to us alleging to allegations around 260 individuals and companies, and not just restricted to brokers, lawyers, accountants, and others, to us taking them to the Investment and Securities Act for violations that relate to share price manipulation, insider dealing, and outright fraud. Because we must send a signal to whether it be local investors, international investors, that it's not, what happened in the past is not characteristic of this country, and that this is a country where proper behavior is rewarded, improper behavior is penalized, and we must make the cost extremely high for people so that people don't do the kinds of things that we saw in our market ever again. And we also hope that illegally gained profits can be disgorged. So that's all what we're seeking through the Investment Securities Tribunal, declaratory orders to disgorge illegally gained profits, such that we can set up an investor protection fund that would allow us, if in the unlikely event some of the issues that we saw in the market ever happen again, that we do have a fund that we can rely on to try and support the ordinary investor in our country.
Okay, now let's talk about the Nigerian Stock Exchange, because it's your market, so to speak. You're the apex regulation body of that market. Since you became the DJ, a lot has happened, just like you said. People now know it's not business as usual. Because sometimes, so when I also interact with some of the brokers, I'm like, it's not business as usual anymore. But now we have the person of Emmanuel Kazabo as interim administrator. When do we hope to see the new CEO, so to speak, of the Nigerian Stock Exchange?
I think it's important that you're talking about the Nigerian Stock Exchange because it is important that as part of our strategy to build a world-class capital market, that the market institutions are world-class. In terms of when we expect to see a new Director General or Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, our expectation is that at the latest, at the beginning of next year, that the new person would have come on board. And I say at the latest, first because the process to come up with that, the Chief Executive Officer, as well as other principal officers, I mean, there's an Executive Director for Listing, Executive Director for Operations, Executive Director for Business Development, is one that is rigorous and one that all of us in our country will be proud of in terms of process and in terms of outcome. As you may know, Accenture, the world-renowned firm, was selected as the consulting firm that will work with the exchange on this process of the succession plan. I believe they've been working with the exchange on the exchange's transformation agenda. As of today, as you may know, there are advertisements that have been put in place. Around 144 people had applied for the 4 positions that I mentioned, including 131 for the position of Director General of the Exchange or Chief Executive Officer. What we expect next is that there will be a screening. After the screening, there will be interviews, there will be assessment centers, such that the process of coming out with the new DG is first class. What then happens is that 3 names for the Chief Executive Officer, 3 names for each of the other 3 positions will be submitted to the Securities and Exchange Commission for us to do our own due diligence and then make recommendations back to the exchange. But what also is different is that through each stage of the process, the SEC is monitoring both the rigor and the quality of the process. We've had the council, we've had Accenture certify to us that they will run a process that is credible, that is transparent, and one that respects the notion that the Nigerian Stock Exchange is a public interest institution, one that is important to the ordinary citizens of this country.
Now that brings me to the question of demutualization. It's been on the table since since 2007, so to speak, has been on and off, bring it off, suspend it, and all of that. Now, with your leadership, what are we saying for demutualization?
I do think that we need to get some of these issues sorted out that relate to governance, that relate to ensuring that we have a credible and new management